motivation, that Mahayana motivation, that whatever little bit we hear today, we're going to be using it for our enlightenment, for the enlightenment of all sentient beings, Mahayana motivation, and not waste this time about thinking of where your car keys are or anything like that, or did you lock the door, but being a little bit focused. So listening, not paying too much attention to the person as such, but listening to the words. And when we listen to the words, we listen to the meaning of the words. And when we're listening to the meaning, we listen to the definitive meaning and not the interpretive meaning of the words. Then, the attitude we should have is 3 principles of the pot. Not to be like a container or a pot that has a lid or is upside down, that obstructs anything from being put inside the pot. Not to be a pot that has no bottom, so that whatever is put in falls out. So in other words, as soon as you walk out of here, we forget everything we've heard. And not to be a pot that is greasy on the inside, that's never been scoured or washed. So whatever is put in there, it's always going to taste on garlic or whatever it is. It's never going to be the new dish. In other words, when you come here, you listen to with an unbiased mind and not bring preconceived notions. Not for my sake, but for your sake, because it's better to have an open mind than a closed one. So, we're going to be talking about karma, just a very, how much we can cover in 90 minutes or so. Otherwise it's going to be a very, very long subject. So, karma is action. Karma is things that we do in body, speech and mind. And most people think that just because you don't do something physically doesn't mean that you're actually performing a karmic act. So in other words, you may feel happy that somebody lost their job, or somebody that you don't particularly like, something happened to them, and you may feel happy for the misfortune. But you may, in your heart, you may think at the same time that, well, I haven't done anything, so therefore I haven't accrued any karmic action, which of course is false, because you are thinking and rejoicing of a negative act towards that person. So therefore we have accrued some kind of negative act. So karma is very complicated. It's not black or white. It's not so clear cut. It's really grey. It's very nebulous. So it falls into 3 categories. Basically there's karma that is obvious to see for us, or we can see if somebody trips over something, we can say, well, you know, we weren't looking, something like that. Then there is karma that's difficult to see, where we have to really kind of infer. We have to say, well, such and such a person is sick because, years and years ago there's a chance that they had that particular sickness, and now it's 20 years later it's manifested in this form, Then there is karma that is totally hidden, that is only an enlightened being can actually tell you exactly what the causes are for A, B, C, and D. So that's scriptural citation. We have to take the Buddha's word for it at this point in time until we get to the point where we can have a direct perception of emptiness, understand clearly how karma works, and we can say, oh yeah, Buddha's been right all along. But before that, we need to have faith in the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha. That's scriptural citation. So the big thing with karma, as I mentioned last time, for those of you who were here, is not, for us in the West, it's a little bit difficult to be practicing the Dhamma without feeling guilty, without punishing ourselves, without thinking, everything is our fault, etc., etc. And of course that's the way we've been raised, that's the way, to a certain degree, our society functions, but that's not the way to be practicing Buddhism. And that's not the way to be viewing karma, because if we do that, then you're basically in a quagmire that you don't want to get out of, because nobody can convince you that if you think it's your fault, nobody can convince you otherwise, because you know in your heart, for whatever reason, that's that and that's that from your experience. That's the end of the story, basically. So that's why we need to have an open mind, and we need to have whatever little karmic connection we have with the Dharma, which brings us here today. We need to utilize that to the maximum ability to get us out of that. So basically, you've been thrown a lifeline and somebody wants to pull you out of the quagmire. That's what that is. Okay? So basically, karma is certain. Karma definitely happens. There's nothing that happens in Buddhist philosophy. There's nothing that just spontaneously pops up and says, well, boom, there's a flower here, there's a cake there, there's this, that, whatever, etc. So people who are studying quantum physics, for example, they say, well, yeah, well, you know, there's particles that just pop up randomly here. From a Buddhist point of view, even random events are based on previous random events. That's Buddhist quantum theory. It's only a matter of time before conventional theory catches up with the Buddha yet again. Yeah? So karma is certain. Yeah? Karma is certain. Karma magnifies greatly. So karma compounds. So if I hit somebody, and if I hit them jokingly, that's one attitude, that's one karmic action. If I hit them in an angry way, a malicious way, and I don't regret it, and I don't say, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry about that, etc., etc. That act, as long as I don't purify that action, it accumulates, it compounds. So it's the same thing if we kill a cockroach. The motivation, if we see a cockroach, you recognize it as a cockroach, not a plastic cockroach, real cockroach, and you say, that's it, I'm going to get him, and I'm going to really do it. You have that kind of motivation, and then when you squash the cockroach, you feel happy that, finally got him. You feel happy about that. In addition to that, you're going to do it again, because you see another one on the other side there. Now, with all those factors at play, you have accrued the karma of actually killing something, a sentient being, because you're depriving that cockroach of its life, which is the most precious thing it possesses. On top of all that, what compounds it is that you're rejoicing in the action. You're feeling happy that you've done it. And then you're happy that you've made such a mess with all the remains of this cockroach. It's so spectacular, you know, killing a fly, or whatever it may be, you know. Everybody's done that, because that's ignorance. That's ignorance. And also because it's a cockroach. It's a lower form of life. So if you want to insult somebody, you call them a cockroach. As soon as you call someone a cockroach, and I'm not talking about Franz Kafka here, as soon as you call somebody a cockroach, now that's it. This person has been ostracized. You call them a cockroach because you want to feel superior. You call them a cockroach because they've done something, or you perceive them as to be someone that are inferior to you. And so as long as you're calling them a cockroach, you are superior, you're in command. As long as you are doing that, as long as you feel that way towards that person, that's as long as you are accruing negative karma. And it compounds every day, all the time, 24 hours a day. That's what we say, what we mean by karma magnifies, or it compounds constantly. By having remorse, by saying, I'm sorry about that, I won't do it again, then we begin to change our mental state of mind, and we begin to purify that act. Then it becomes a virtuous act. Then you see, oh, how much I've hurt that person, and at the same time we see how much we've hurt ourselves. karmically speaking. So the secret to understanding karma is we understand for the first time how much we're hurting ourselves. But we have to learn it the hard way. We have to hurt somebody else because we're always looking outside of ourselves before we can understand, oh yeah, I'm gonna, I call somebody cockroach, somebody else is gonna call me a cockroach. It's only a matter of time before a bigger fish shows up and they try to squash me, so to speak. Yeah? So, cause and effect. By insulting people, don't expect chocolates and flowers in return. You're only going to get insults back. Cause and effect. But that's a little bit counterintuitive as far as we're concerned, because when you learn a new language, what's the first thing you learn? You learn all the swear words, don't you? First of all, you learn them in order to defend yourself, or you think, to defend yourself. Then secondly, you learn them in order to retaliate, in terms of, yeah, and you too, blah, 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 etc., etc. But here's the beauty of it. What about if you didn't know what these people were saying? There'll be no problem. They think you're a fool because you don't understand they're actually insulting you. But it's fine. What you don't know can't hurt you. But because they're insulting you, what they think they're actually doing is insulting you, but in fact they're actually accumulating the negative karma through verbalizing swearing. So basically they're just hurting themselves. It's got nothing to do with you. That example is what happens when later on, when we become very strong Buddhist practitioners. When somebody's swearing at you, and you understand perfectly what they're saying, irrespective of language, but because through your meditation and through your understanding of renunciation, bodhicitta, and emptiness, somebody's swearing at you, and there's no reason to respond, just pure compassion. But yet that person is going red in the face, trying to antagonize you. No problem. Because you understand, once you retaliate, even by looking at them, you take on that karma. Once you take on that karma, that's it. You've created a negative karmic action with that person. And what are you going to do? Well, of course, you're going to start yelling at that person as well. But if you're a strong practitioner, through your meditation, you can clearly see, just observing it, the whole thing just ricochets back to the person. So, because you're on your side are not getting angry, that person now has to stop being angry, because there is no cause for them to continue to be angry anymore. So as long as you stand there and genuinely that person eventually just calm down and say, hey, come on, let's go and get a drink or whatever it is. Now all of a sudden they're your friend. Oh, think about it. That requires a lot of practice to get to that point where you're actually not moved at all, because you understand where they're coming from. You understand through your meditations, through your practice, through your study, trial and error, that as long as you respond, nothing can hurt you. And that brings us to, I'm sorry, I'm reading the prompt here. That brings us to the next aspect of karma, which is we cannot experience a karmic action we have not performed. If I don't respond to your anger, your negativity, you do not have your karma, lasting karma will actually disappear. You may have the initial karma to yell at me or whatever it is because of misunderstanding, or because we have a karmic connection from a previous life that allows you to do that. But because I or you say, no, I don't want to do this, and therefore that karma will run out from the other person. So therefore I cannot experience a karmic action that I have not performed previously. So that's why when we see, by understanding this this aspect of karma. We cannot experience a karmic action we have not performed, right? By understanding that, that automatically attacks, for example, jealousy. Okay? Keeping in mind that you're living in a karmic bubble, right? You're seeing other people that, oh, those people have such a better life than me, you know? You're seeing it through your karmic bubble, but there's nothing you can do about it because you can only experience what you have the karma for. But yet we can see clearly those people over there having a wonderful time, money, etc., etc. They go on holiday every 6 months, etc., etc. But by understanding this aspect of karma, that we cannot experience a karmic action we have not performed, all you have to do is say, how wonderful that these people have that. How wonderful that they have this opportunity and have performed the karma to experience this life. Bush, there goes your jealousy and resentment. That's the enemy. Those people are not the enemy. So, Arya Shantideva, in his famous Bodhisattva's Way of Life, paraphrasing, he says, do not be afraid of what people think of you or say to you. Be afraid of what you think of other people and what you say to other people. Because those people may be yelling at you, all sorts of things they may insult you with. To the worst, they could actually kill you, right? But that's peanuts. Why? Because even those heavy actions cannot send you to hell. Why? Because you haven't performed the karmic act to be sent to hell. So in other words, if I haven't performed the action, I can't experience that result. So I'm afraid of my actions more than I'm afraid of somebody else's actions. You can murder me, but you will go to hell, not me. Hopefully. Because we're not exactly sure what our karmic action is, right? So, be afraid of what you think of those other people or other people. Constant jealousy, resentment, pride, etc., etc. Be afraid of those things that we possess, the kleshas, the delusions. Klesha is a Sanskrit word for delusion. Yeah? That's what we should be afraid of. Not be afraid of what other people have to say. Because when they say those things, that's their karma. And they will have to experience the results of those actions. Not me. Unless as I said, unless I participate in that karma. Then we both have to experience that result. So that's something that is automatically helping us to overcome our delusions by understanding, I can't experience that result. If I want that money and that prestige, then I have to work for it. I have to create the cause for that. So the best thing to do is to feel happy and rejoice in their good fortune. How wonderful that they've done that. How wonderful that you did it. Hey, fantastic, you're going on holiday again? Wow! What's the matter with that guy? You'll hear many times, for example, somebody at work or something will get a promotion and maybe you've applied for the same job. Hey, I heard Bill got the job. Fantastic. That's wonderful. Hey, but didn't you go for the same job? Yeah, but that's okay, it's great. Yeah, but you're not exactly friends with Bill. Why are you so happy for it? That's wonderful, you got the job. Now here we go, check this out. You're trying to practice Buddhism, right? You're trying to practice what your teachers taught you to the best of your ability, right? You're trying to practice compassion, etc., etc. It goes to show you what a deluded and negative world we live in. That one little act of compassion like that, and somebody thinks you're weird, you're strange. So who's actually strange here? It's the person that thinks that you're strange because you're compassionate. And that clearly shows the world we're living in, that we're saturated with so much delusion that one little rejoicing, sincerely from your heart, wow, Bill got the job, wow, it's fantastic. And everybody thinks, man, you got to screw loose. Renunciation. Developing the desire to be free from suffering and clearly seeing the distinction between right and wrong, black and white. We can't do it ourselves. We need it. We need either an enlightened being an Arya Bodhisattva, or somebody who's definitely on that path to pure enlightenment, to show us this is black, this is white, this is what you need to adopt, this is what you need to abandon. Because even at work, your family, everybody will be saying the same thing. What are you so happy about? This person's done this, whatever. Because that's not the way society is. That's not the way the samsara is. Samsara does not rejoice for your good fortune. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do. And that's the distinction between virtue and non-virtue. So at this point, our form of renunciation is not shaving your head and putting on robes. No, that's easy to do. That's easy, wearing the uniform. The difficult one is developing renunciation and keeping your clothes, being married, having a job, having kids, and living in the world, and still developing renunciation. How do you do that? It's easy to say, beam me up, Scotty, there's no sign of intelligent life here. Everybody's crazy here. I want to go, I want to go. Very easy, But those with courage, or those with no choice, you decide for yourself which category you fall in, have to make do with what we have here. And this is your karma. This is your karma. This is what we have. So the Buddha said, when you're walking and you trip, right, you're dependent on the ground to stand back up again. In other words, you use the suffering that you have in order to find a way out. Not to be there cursing the ground and saying, well, that's it, I'm not walking anymore, I'm going to sit on this spot. No way, they're going to have to carry me around. Bad ground, bad ground. That's not the way to act. Everybody's against me, everything's... Yes, that is true. But here we are now, because you have a connection with, some small connection with Tibetan, or Buddhism per se, Tibetan specifically in this case, Tibetan Buddhism, to begin to understand what it is that we possess. So karma is not just about negativity, and the reason why we dwell upon negativity, why the first of the Four Noble Truths is suffering, is to indicate the Buddha is teaching us, look at the place you're in, look at the world around you. For people who may be a little bit escapist in their mind, they don't want to do that. Because it's too much trouble. It just brings back bad memories. I don't want that. I just want escape. I just want to teach me how to get out of here. Well, nobody goes anywhere until you see the disadvantages of where you are at the moment. And the thing is, if you want to get out of something, do you know where exactly it is that you're going to go? It's easy to say, I want that bad behavior to stop, or I want that person to stop, etc., etc. Well, where are you going to go from there? How are you going to change that? What's going to happen? And the thing is, you can't experience an action you have not performed. So if you've got somebody that's hassling you at work, if you've got an evil cousin like the Buddha, or maybe you yourself are an evil cousin to somebody else. And tit for tat, eh? Yeah? Then we have to see, well, there's a karmic reason for that. There's a karmic reason that you're married to the person you're married, to the family that you're born into, the job that you're doing, etc., etc. The country that you live in, the abilities that you have. All these things are based on causes and conditions. So, nothing happens until we decide we wish to do it. It's as simple as that. But the thing is, we are blind to that. We think there are somehow causes and conditions outside of ourselves that are dictating our life. Somehow have brought us here. And that brings us to the subject of free will. In Tibetan philosophy, there is no free will. Because if there was a free will, as Shantideva says, there would be no suffering in the world. Because what fool would want to suffer? everybody would have all the money they need, all the food they need. Nobody would be at war, because nobody would want that. Yeah? Everybody would have exactly what they want. But that doesn't happen. Yeah? So, in Buddhist philosophy, there is no independent, inherently existent free will. There are only causes and conditions. You can't experience something that you haven't done before. Do you want to turn on the air conditioning again? Just a little bit. Thank you. So the next aspect of karma is karma that was performed before, previously, does not lose its power. So all previous actions we've done remain within the continuum, conscious continuum. They do not degenerate. They are, as the scriptures say, they are dormant seeds, waiting for the right conditions to happen. So you're happy, you're lucky, it's great here, you know, hopefully it's great here. You go outside and you realize somebody's giving you a parking ticket and you lose it. You just go angry. Yeah? Well, what happened? You know? What happened? Well, the seed for that anger was always there. Something happened that you didn't want it to happen, but yet it happened. You have no control of the matter. Yeah? Now, in terms of anger, we are so habituated to anger, which is a very powerful force, very destructive force. And as Shantideva again says, anger has no other purpose other than to destroy, maim, hurt, insult. There is no other purpose for anger. There is no other purpose for it. Yeah? Because we are so habituated to that, people are constantly swearing, four-letter word here, four-letter word there, everything they pick up, four-letter word, everything. Incredibly negative karma, because they're habituating themselves to saying such things. Yeah? Through that force of habit, we're not even conscious of when that initial thought of anger has occurred. For those of you who have tried to meditate, an image of the Buddha or whatever image that you have chosen, you see the Buddha and then all of a sudden you're thinking about something at work. Where is the transition point between Buddha and work? The reason why you can't actually pinpoint the actual transition between work and the Buddha is because you are more habituated thinking about work than you are about the Buddha. Cause and effect. It's in a nanosecond, half a nanosecond, a trillionth of a nanosecond. I don't know if there's such a thing. But it's almost instantaneous. It's like, well, all of a sudden you're somewhere else. No, you've got to go back to the visualizing the Buddha. If there was a free will, you should be able to state, I now consciously, with all volition, want to meditate on the Buddha. And you should be able to meditate and stay on the image of the Buddha for as long as you want. It ain't going to happen unless you have many, many, many years of meditation practice. Cause and effect. There is no free will by Oxford Dictionary definition of free will. So that's why I said, for those of you that have heard me talk previously, that's why I said, what you possess now, this precious human rebirth, you have no idea how fortunate you are. To living in this country that you're living, making a little bit of money, having the resources that you can go on pilgrimages, you can go, you know, when His Holiness comes here, you spend a little money to go and attend to these teachings. You can do whatever you want with this precious human rebirth that you have. Everything is at your disposal. You don't need hundreds of millions of dollars for that. You just need patience and understanding as to what kind of karma that you possess. That's the most precious thing that you have. And nobody can take that away from you because that is your personal, individual karmic action. Nobody else in your family has that, or friends, or people at work. Nobody. Who else has that depth of interest that you may have at this point in time? So, but the thing is, once you come here, that karma that's brought you here, as I've said before, it's finished. That cause is now gone. The seed has ripened, it's gone. Now, in order to continue on, you need to study, you need to ask questions, you need to constantly create the cause to be in a close connection with Buddhism. Especially if you have a relationship with a teacher. My teacher told me, he said that when you find the appropriate teacher that suits your, that you have a karmic connection with, that person, he or she, you grab hold of them, even if they hit you, insult you, whatever it is, you never ever let go of that person. Because that person is the only person that you have the strongest karmic connection to teach you the Dharma. If you let go of that person, yes, you may go to other Dharma centers and other teachers, etc., etc., but you won't have the same depth of understanding. Because when you come across a teacher that you have a strong karmic connection with, they say this, boom, you got it. You go to some other teacher, they may be more senior, more realized, etc., etc. They say something and straight over your head, because you don't have the karma to understand what they're saying. You don't have that karmic connection. So the everyday equivalent, the mundane equivalent of that is when you meet somebody and you fall in love with them. Yeah? Whatever they say, oh, okay, I get it. Somebody else says the same thing, you go, I don't understand what you're saying. Obviously you're biased because you find this person attractive, so therefore you're going to be more susceptible. But nevertheless, that's karma in operation. You know, you can trust this person because you love them and you can tell them your secrets, you can work out problems, etc., etc. This person is that person. The spiritual equivalent of that is finding a teacher that fulfills that same obligation. Do you understand what I'm saying? Without insulting any lamas anywhere in the universe. So, in principle, it's very, very similar. In principle. So that's why, that karma, that's what you have. You have that karma at this point in time. And for a lot of people, personally, that I've seen, you know, they just go from one place to one place, they confuse themselves, they just become lost. And in the end, whatever karma they've had to be involved with Buddhism, it evaporates. It just goes. And in the next lifetime, they will have that karma, that their connection to the Buddha Dharma will be less. And then the following life, less and less, until eventually they won't even hear the word Buddhism or Buddha. They'd be lucky to see somebody wearing a t-shirt with the image of the Buddha on front. Actually, if you have a t-shirt of the Buddha, don't wear it. It's non-virtuous. So that's the way it works. Karma accumulates by virtue of negative actions and positive actions. But at the same time, those virtuous actions that we have, they diminish depending on how much negativity you're wishing to perform. So as I mentioned last week, the old Gadampa Geshis, they used to, at the end of each day, they used to review their day. What did I say today? What did I think today? What did I physically do today? And for every negative action that they've done, they put a black stone. There's one there. For every virtuous action, they put a white stone on one side. And then they would see which is the bigger pile. And then they would know, oh, they have a physical representation of their positive karma and their negative karma. So then they would have to, okay, well, obviously we have to put these piles, reduce them all together. So that's why it said at the end of each day, you just don't go home and open the fridge and then watch TV and go to bed, even though as tempting that may be. You review the day. If you're a serious practitioner, you review the day. You know, for those of you who have commitments and whatever, obviously you have to do your daily commitments, yes. But at the end of the day, the minimum requirement would be, in this subject that we're doing, for example, karma, how did I act today? You think, what did I do today? What did I say? Did I think badly of that person at work? Did I say something sexist? or whatever it may be. You review the day. You be your own judge. And then alter your behavior. What little bit you know about karma, cause and effect, then you alter your behavior. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to be not so insulting to that person at work. Doesn't mean you have to be artificially, caring or cloy or something like that to somebody. But it just means in your mind, at least, if you know somebody's not approachable, at least in your mind you're not going to say, "Oh, here comes Bill down the corridor again." Don't say that. Even though you put on a smiley face, but you resent seeing that person. The mind is the main operator, so therefore change your mind first. So another aspect of Buddhism is that all the Buddhist teachings, all of them, every single aspect of the Buddhist teaching is or should be regarded as personal advice. It's not some textbook philosophy. You need to be a great debater. You need to know these Maitreya's texts off by heart and be able. That's for scholars and those who are teaching at monastic universities. You're thinking way over your head there. Yeah. For us, this is it. This is it. This is the most important thing. Karma is the most important thing. And the reason karma brings us happiness is because we understand how it operates. When you understand how it operates, then you create the cause to change it. There's your will. There's your will. Cause and effect. Your so-called free will is dependent upon your understanding. So then you become in control of your happiness. Or you're not, or your non-happiness. Sorry. Yeah? So if I understand this is making me unhappy, well, what can I do about it? And that's the first. Isn't that really basically what they do in psychology? You know, when you go and lay down on Sigmund Freud's couch, first of all, you have to understand it's going to cost you $200 an hour. Okay, all right, I've got big problems. It's all right, I'm willing to pay $400 if I have to. Okay, all right, lay down. What's your problem? Well, X, Y, Z. Right, okay, so how do you feel about that? Well, no. Basically, you're solving your own problem. Because all the psychologist is doing is giving you the space, giving you the time, keeping, that's $50 so far. Keep it, and then basically they're allowing you to relive the experience. Oh yeah, and then you get the epiphany, right? Yeah, okay, thanks, that's wonderful, and it only cost you $20,000 to get that. So it's the same thing here. It's the same thing. It's a psychological process. By understanding karma, why can't I don't understand. Every time I see that person, I just hate them. I just really hate them. Why is that? Well, that's because somewhere down the line, something's happened. We don't know. We don't have the clairvoyance to see the exact specifics, but we can infer through scripture that somewhere along the line that person has hurt us. Now what are you going to do about it? Well, according to the law of cause and effect, if I retaliate, it's only going to get worse. Well, that's right. So what are you going to do now? Well, run away, ignore them? Well, that's one option. But what's the best option? The best option is you purify that act. In other words, alchemy. You convert a base metal into gold. In other words, you convert anger into compassion. That's alchemy. That's the true nature of alchemy. It's got nothing to do with chemistry or whatever it is. Alchemy is a metaphysical science, not a physical science. So now is your chance. If you choose to run away from the situation, be prepared to be running for a long, long, long time. Because the karma will always remain. Now is your chance that you have this precious human rebirth. You can purify that act. Yes, it is scary. It's easy to pick up a gun and go to a war zone. But to confront actually the actual mental, psychological processes that really, really scare us, or make us uncomfortable at least, that takes a huge amount of courage. Prior to that courage, you need a huge amount of study, contemplation, meditation, slowly desensitizing yourself to that object. It's like, again, the psychologists, if you're afraid of spiders, what do? They show you a picture of a spider, but only briefly. And then more, and then finally, okay, right. Okay, touch the picture. No. Touch the picture. And then they get you a plastic, they get you a little plastic spider, okay? Then eventually it's a real spider in a jar. And then eventually, maybe they get you a tarantula, touch a tarantula. So desensitizing yourself to your fear, isn't it? Same thing with, fear of heights, etc., etc. Same psychological process happens here. We run away from abusive childhood, for example. We run away from whatever it is that you've been, that is really bad. And we don't want to go back to that place. But studying Buddhism, for those who are serious at doing it, is not an escapist philosophy. It's a confrontational philosophy. Those serious practitioners who have developed true renunciation, or want to develop true renunciation, clearly and nakedly, unobstructedly go out there and look, what is causing me problem? That's it. Right, that's it. You walk into a bar and you knock the living daylights out of the biggest guy in the room, and everybody else is not going to touch you anymore. So, the biggest problem that you have in your life, that is the first thing that you apply the Buddha's teachings to. But we do the opposite. And it's understandable. Again, it's understandable. Nobody's blaming you. Because what? Because it's painful. I don't want those memories. I want them erased. I want to forget about it. I just want to chant Om Mani Padme Hum. I want the white lights. I want all lotuses around me, the heavenly music. I want all that. It's an escapist thing. If that's what you want, that's fine. I'm not here to judge. But that's not the way it's being taught here. And if you do it that way for an extended period of time, you're really creating the karma to be reborn in the lower state of existence. You're not really creating the karma to be born, free yourself from samsara. So it's like those people, on that same subject, it's like those people who don't understand how to meditate properly. They think you just blank out your mind and you just meditate on nothing. Well, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, he said a friend of his went on a 3-year retreat, and he came back and he was brave enough to say to His Holiness, to admit, said, I've meditated for 3 years and my mind is dull. Just dull, meaning slow. Like that, slow. And that is a clear sign that that person got it wrong. They didn't know what they were meditating on, had no idea. So they were just constantly trying to rid of thoughts in their mind, and as a consequence, the mind becomes dull. But if you know how to meditate properly, your mind actually becomes sharper. That's a Tibetan word, sharper. So it becomes very, very sharp. Not like a fluorescent light, but it becomes a light, like a laser beam. So that's why when you meet some of those high lamas, they're in their 80s or 90s, but their mind is just, so sharp. They're frail, they may not be able to walk or stand, whatever, but you talk to them, you see, their mind is just sharper than a razor. Absolutely sharp. That's how it should be. And that's a proper indication that cause and effect. Yeah? Okay, so I'm covering a whole bunch of subjects here. Stay with me. Okay? So, karma is certain. Karma compounds. We cannot experience a karmic action we have not performed, right? And a karmic experience that we have done will definitely ripen, either in this lifetime, in the immediate next lifetime, or some future lifetime. It has to ripen. Now that last one, karma has to ripen. It has to ripen. That's the one that should send goose pimples down your back. Again, it's not like, oh, you're bad, I'm good. No, we're all bad. That's the whole point here. First noble truth, suffering. Everything is suffering. Okay? So therefore, everything's suffering. Karma has to ripen. Oh my goodness, my pile of black stones. Wow, what's going to happen? How, And that pile of black stones indicates to you, it's your own experience, your own realization. You see why you can't get it right, why you can't get anything right anymore. You try and try, it just doesn't work. And that indicates that we're too busy following our worldly concerns. We're following worldly people. Peer group pressure. Society as such. That doesn't mean you break the rules. Okay? You have to follow the laws and bylaws of the society that you live in. Yeah? You have to do that. But you have to also, you're in the world, but not part of the world. Because your motivation as a Buddhist, as a spiritual seeker, irrespective of religion, is to get out of samsara, because you know there is no lasting happiness here. You may be in a perfect relationship, and that's wonderful to share your life. You may be in a perfect job, etc., etc. That's wonderful to be of benefit to people in society by giving employment, etc., etc., and service to people. That is nice. But there's a use-by date to all those things. In a relationship, we still have to die. We still have to pass on. We can't take our work with us, but we have to take our karma with us. And again, that's something that should make the hairs in the back of your head a little bit stand on end. That the only thing that you will take with you is your karma. So again, how big is that pile of black stones? And how big is the pile of white stones? At this point in time, we shouldn't be surprised, because we don't know. We haven't been taught what's right and what's wrong. Our parents, our peers, have taught us how to live in society, how to get a job, how to interact socially with people. These are all valid things. These are all wonderful things. How to be a parent. You learn from your own parents or from your in-laws, etc., etc. They're all valid things, but they are not spiritual things. They are not lasting things. They are not things that will teach us between virtue and non-virtue as such. When was the last time anybody got taught, their in-laws or somebody, a family member, was teaching you about the law of karma? When was it somebody that in your family that taught you, compassion from a bodhisattva's way of life? You don't meet that. You don't come across that. It's very rare to be meeting somebody who will be able to teach you the Dharma. Very, very rare. And then somebody to actually have the volition to actually devote themselves to that. So, as Pabonka Rinpoche says, the understanding the law of cause and effect, that's the thing that brings us true happiness, spiritual happiness and worldly happiness. Because finally, the door is opened and we can see this is what you have to do and this is what you don't have to do. Because we understand the causes that one and the other will produce. So, people don't like to, because we artificially think that we have a free will, people usually don't like rules and regulations. If I want to ride my Harley Davidson down the road, you can't make me wear a helmet. But, dude, the helmet is for your safety. No, I'm not wearing a helmet. But the thing is, okay, you want to be a rebel, right? But you still have to obey the rules and regulations of the road. Ha! Gotcha! You You can't just do whatever you want to do. If you want to go to a destination, drive a car, you still have to obey the rules of the road. You can't drive on any way you want because you're not going to get to where you're going to go. You're going to cause an accident. You'll kill yourself or you'll kill somebody else in the process. You must obey rules and regulations unless you want to build your own road. Well, that would be insane when you've already got people doing things for you kindly. You know, did you build your Harley Davidson? No. Did you make your own leather jacket? No, I didn't know. Well, what did you do? Well, I bought all those. Through the kindness of other people, you have all those things. Did you refine and process all the petrol that goes into your tank? No, I just get to the pump and... so what are you doing? Well, I just ride the bike. And with the wind go through my hair. That's all I do. Well, I mean, how wonderful is that? To have the karma that people are doing all these things for you. So it's the same thing for us. Did you build the car? No. Did you make the cat? No. Did you make your clothes? No. So what exactly did you do? The kindness of all sentient beings. Everybody's kind to provide these services. And being a specialist, a legal specialist, yeah? Being specialists in all sorts of other businesses and everything else, we depended upon these people through their kindness, indirect or direct kindness. So we have to have rules and regulations. We have to have them. Especially when it comes to spiritual practice, because everything is against us. Our habitual tendencies are against us. Our families are indirectly against us because they're trying to get us to do things. We kind of like, well, you know, I just need time. No, you have to, no. So having this time and space is an incredible rare commodity. And for us in the West, you know, we're very, very privileged. If we live in different parts of the world, you'd be out there still planting seeds until all the daylight goes. You know, until it's pitch black. And then when it's pitch black, after working a 15, 16-hour day, especially now, with daylight saving, yeah, you're going to have no time for mantra recitations or reading texts or anything. You just want to eat and go to sleep. Yeah? Physically exhausted. For us, in the West, it's mental exhaustion, not physical exhaustion. If we want physical exhaustion, we go to a gym. If I want to sweat, I need to go out of my way to sweat. How luxurious is that? I'm not even a multi-millionaire. You know, I don't even have anything gold in my house whatsoever, let alone those people who are truly, truly rich, who have everything is gold. You know, the toilet fittings are gold, the aeroplane is gold. Oh, my goodness, I mean, they don't have to do anything for themselves, do they? And yet, here I am living in a virtuous country, you know, poor old humble me, and I have to, if I want to bust a sweat, I have to go out of my way to do that. Wow, how privileged is that? A lot of people don't realise that because we've grown up that way, we take it for granted, habituate ourselves to that. You only experience that when you go to Nepal or some other country, and then you realise, you know, oh my goodness, these people don't have the karma that I do. So two things happen from that. Either you develop compassion or you develop arrogance. And from that will determine what kind of karma you will experience. So, out of all the negative actions, all the different 84,000 kleshas, delusions, the Buddha synthesizes them into 10 non-virtues. And in hierarchical order, from the grossest one to the most subtlest one, there are 10 of them. And the reason why they are non-virtues, something becomes non-virtuous, is the amount of pain that it inflicts on somebody. So obviously killing something, or someone, I beg your pardon, is the most extreme and is the most negative action you can do because you're depriving somebody of their precious life, whether it's a cockroach, or an elephant, or a whale. Now, we don't have the time to go, you know, this isn't like a 6-month retreat on karma or anything like that, to go into the finer details. and spend time meditating and contemplating on those subjects as it would traditionally be taught. But killing something, you know, in order to experience the full effect of murder, you need to see something and you say, right, that's like as I said before with a cockroach. You need to recognize it as a cockroach, and you need to have the volition to say, yes, that's a cockroach, I want to kill it, and I'm going to do it now, and then you perform the act, and then you have no remorse about it, and you say, great, I got it. And then I want to do it again. No remorse, indicating I haven't done anything, legal point of view here, so I'm going to do it again. Yeah? Once all those things are in play, that mental, all those motivations, you've ticked all the boxes, so to speak, that is a complete and full negative karmic act. I've got a rock. I'm going to throw it at person X. I throw it at person X, but person Y comes in the way and I hit them on the head. And they got it, and they have to be taken to hospital. What happened there? I still hate person X, but person Y, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that. Yes, it's still a negative action, but it doesn't carry the weight of actually the same as if I'd hit person X, because I didn't know they were there. It wasn't intentional, but I still did hurt them. Yeah. So please, Your Honour, yeah, it's okay. Light sentence, couple of fine. You know, he's fine. He's okay. But if I hurt person X, I would want to do it again because I really, really hate that person. All the boxes are ticked, but with person Y, only just the incident of actually hitting them, and with strong remorse. I didn't mean it. Won't do it again. I'll pay for the hospital bill, whatever it is, you know. So you totally dilute that negative action. So that's, you have to be very, very careful. A subtle point is, for us, most of the time that won't happen. Most of the time, especially as adults. For us, the subtle points is when we're at work or family. You know, when you're at work, you know, you've got your group of people that you like, you've got a group of people that you don't like. That's normal, right? But the thing is to really, really hate somebody. You know, to really sabotage their work or something. You hate them so much you're going to sabotage them and make them look so bad they're going to get a bad reputation. Yes, I hate that person X. I know what I'm going to do is going to make them look bad. I'm going to forge these documents. I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to make them look bad. You have regrets? No, I don't. Are you going to do it again? Yes, I am. Because they're so, so bad, that person. That's the equivalent that for us, like white-collar crime, or whatever you want to call it. You know. That's same thing with, you know, if we hurt an animal, something like that, or we enjoy, you know, hurting people because it becomes a power thing. That's the most insidious one of all. As a parent, being a parent, you're a manager. Basically, it's a managerial position, you know. And for a lot of people, it's the biggest managerial position you'll have in your life. Yeah? But if you like scolding children, if you like punishing people, yelling at them, swearing at them, etc., etc., you're accumulating more negative karma than positive karma. And then, don't be surprised when your little kids start swearing back at you. Cause and effect. Who taught you that? They're teaching you that at school, aren't they? No, it's at home. So we're not conscious of what we're doing. Why are we doing that? Because that's the way we've been brought up. That's the way we've been brought up. So understanding karma, you can clearly see, well, I don't want to raise my kids like that. I don't want to raise anybody's kids. I don't even want to raise my pets like that, you know? So automatically, it brings happiness to our lives, or potential for happiness. Killing. Stealing. If you deprive somebody of something that they truly like, you're causing suffering to that person. You stole my Aston Martin, man. That cost me like $250,000. The beautiful car, you know. Suffering, you know. Stealing little things because of habitual tendencies. But more importantly, because it's bringing it's stealing is really taking something from someone else. That's all it is. And that's what all this boils down to. All these non-virtues are basically, you're hurting somebody else before you're hurting yourself, karmically speaking. That's why it makes it a negative action, because you're hurting someone else. Okay? Sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct, in general terms, means having adultery. So that, in a way, is stealing. Stealing somebody else's wife or husband, you know. And when they, so why is that so bad? It's bad because when the husband or wife finds out, people have committed suicide because their wife or their husband have left them. They have, or murder-suicide in case, you know. And people don't do extreme things like that if they're happy. Oh, go ahead, take her, it's fine, go ahead. I've always wanted to get a divorce, now give me grounds to get a divorce. You know, okay, that could happen, but sexual misconduct is basically you're hurting somebody else. You're destroying somebody else's relationship, marriage, family, kids. That's a heavy act. That's a very heavy act. Okay? So lying. Lying. Now, this one, you know, lying in this instance implies the big lie. In Buddhism, the big lie is, I'm the biggest Lama that ever was, that ever is, I'm an enlightened being. That's the big lie. To say that you are something that you are not. That you have abilities and realizations, spiritual realizations, that you don't even possess an atom of. Simply because you wear robes or because you sit on a high seat. You know. Strange things happen when you sit on high seats. The ego tends to go up with you, doesn't it? You know. So the big lie is to say or to give yourself qualities that you do not possess, and then make other people believe that you possess those attributes. So if somebody says to you, you know, oh wow, you must have read all those books and understand all the scripture, and you don't verbalize, you don't answer them, and you let them on, non-verbally, say, you know, and then so they think you've done it. That is a huge, huge, huge lie, especially from a spiritual point of view. Okay, if you're at uni and somebody said, oh, you've read the Encyclopedia Britannica or whatever it is, well, maybe. Wow. Okay, that's a heavy act, but not as heavy from a spiritual point of view, because from a spiritual point of view, the only reason religion exists is to be of benefit to others. If you're pretending to be a bodhisattva or an enlightened being, I don't want to be in your shoes. I don't want to be within a light year near you. That's the amount of negative karma that you will accrue. Basically, you're insulting all the Buddhas that ever were, all the Buddhas that are, and all the Buddhas and bodhisattvas that ever will be. You are pretending to be them and accruing as much negative karma as those holy beings contain. Yeah? Not only that, but you're also now denigrating the Dharma. And if people start following you and believing you, and you start getting a big, huge following, and then they say, yeah, we believe him. But then there's somebody who's really realized and who is teaching the true Dharma, pure Dharma. And then you won't believe them. Because this is easier, you know. What you're talking about karma, that's what I want to know. This is not true, because it's so depressing when you talk about Dharma. But that's what the Buddhists... No. If you do that, and if you convince one person wrongly to go on the path, do not expect a happy rebirth, and do not expect any happiness in this lifetime. It's a very, very bad thing to do, or encourage somebody to do that. Lying per se is not good because it accumulates. You're constantly bragging about yourself, saying small things. Habituate yourself to that kind of lying. By the end of the day, you'll have a bag full. By the end of the week, you'll have a truck full. By the end of the month, you'll have a ship full. By the end of the year, you'll have a whole wagon load of negative karma. Karma compounds. It accumulates. If you have to lie to save somebody's life, yes, you do that. If you have to lie in order to protect somebody's reputation, for example, you know somebody's going to lose their job, and they're asking you, well, you know, I want you to tell me now about this person, blah, 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 blah. Well, you have to now ascertain. Do you want to get involved or not get involved? Is somebody's job on the line because of your testimony? If it's a criminal offence, you have to do it. You have to admit the truth. You have to obey the law of the land, whichever country you live in. But if it's a social thing, just a social thing, you know, and there's a chance that this person may get a bad reputation or something, then it's okay to lie. Doesn't mean you haven't performed a negative action. It just means that you're being compassionate and you're giving the person the benefit of the doubt. And also you don't want to create that negative karmic action with this person. Because if you tell the truth and this person loses their job or loses their reputation on a social basis, you have accrued the negative karma with that person now. So it's not black and white. You must think your compassion overrules pretty much any negative action you do. As in Mahayana tradition, when you take the Bodhisattva vows, those vows, you're allowed to bend the rules. You are given permission to bend the rules and in certain cases break the rules in order to help sentient beings. But you yourself must have that inner strength before you can do that. If you don't think you have it, then you have to do what you have to do. So if I see somebody with a knife and said, hey, did you see a guy run past here? No, I just showed up just a minute ago. I didn't see anybody. You know, the person doesn't run around with a knife because they want to open a letter. They want to stab somebody, you know. So if you tell them where that person went, it's your fault that they got murdered. You have to lie. You have to lie. If somebody's life or an animal's life is in, or so, hey, did you see a cockroach come in here? No, I didn't see anything. No problem. No problem at all. Because if you say, aha, he's here, get him. It's like going to a restaurant and you see the fish tank and you say, I want that fat, juicy lobster. And they go out and you never see that lobster again. Not for a while anyway. It's your fault that that lobster was killed. And it's now on your plate. No remorse, because I love fat, juicy lobsters. You know, plus it costs such a fortune. It's a prestigious thing. You know. You have to be very, very careful what you do. Slander. Slander, the motivation is to cause a division. Division. So when you see two people or a group of people, you give slander is basically saying, you know, well, you know, that person over there, they're not very good, whatever it is. Yeah, you're right. So you're causing a schism between a marriage, a friendship, whatever it may be, social status, at work particularly, family, you know, evil cousin syndrome and all that kind of stuff, slandering people, yeah, vendetta, very, very heavy action. Then harsh speech. Harsh speech. This, now we're getting into more subtle nuances of negative karma. So harsh speech, you think, well, yeah, okay, it's not nice. But the thing is, habitual tendency. Constantly talking harshly. The karmic result of that is that nobody's going to listen to you. For example, for those people who have done emergency evacuation procedures, the first thing they tell you is, you don't yell and scream at people to evacuate a building, because nobody's going to listen to you. That you say, they instruct you, please take your belongings, there's a fire. Okay, take your belongings, go. You talk in a quiet, polite voice. Take your belongings, there's a fire, go to the nearest exit. Oh, great, thank you very much. If you yell at that person's going to be confused. Maybe they'll get upset at you. They won't believe what you say. So harsh speech, keeping in mind, habituating yourself to this every single day. What? I said I love you. What? That's not a sign of love. It's not a sign of compassion. It's like sometimes you see those films or whatever it is, and people are talking in a very, very kind of rough voice, whatever it is. Yeah, okay, well, doesn't mean I don't care about you because of this, and whatever. Well, it's very hard to express love, emotion, compassion, and caring when you really, in that tone of voice, it's just, I don't care if you're a ship captain or whatever it is, or an artillery officer or whatever it is that requires you to be speaking in a loud voice. It doesn't work. So the cumulative, habitual, karmic result of that is that nobody will believe what you say, even if you tell them the truth. Sorry, what did he said blue sky. Oh, blue sky. Okay, yeah. It's just, literally, they will not be able to understand what you say, nor believe it. Idle speech. Now, idle speech, unless we can talk about somebody, unless we can really criticize somebody, what have we got to talk about anyway? It's difficult, isn't it, to have a social conversation without really kind of talking about somebody, the pros and cons, this TV personality, that TV personality, this politician, that politician. It's very, very difficult without really kind of having some kind of political position, isn't it? And usually when we have a political position, then we have to explain it. We have to, excuse me a second, we have to defend it, and then there's always somebody on the opposite side. And then, boom, problem. Now, idle speech in itself is not really malicious, but over a period of time, a drop fills a bucket fills a bathtub fills a swimming pool, yeah? And a swimming pool eventually fills a lake and an ocean. And constantly. Yeah, I saw such and such and this, I don't like what she was wearing. I like what this belly. So is it any wonder when we begin to meditate, we're just thinking about shoes, television, cars. We're thinking about everything under the sun except for the object of meditation. And a lot of people, when they start to meditate, they say, I really don't like meditating because I have more peace of mind when I'm open my eyes and walking around. So these people have got it backwards. They're so deluded. They're so deluded that they think that when they're meditating, now all these thoughts are coming in and they're not getting any peace and quiet. And the only peace and quiet they get is when they're out in the world, talking to people, etc., etc. What they don't realize is that their mind is filled with idle talk constantly. They're not conscious of that. And then when they sit down on the meditation cushion for the first time in their life, they actually have to confront their mind. And when they actually see that what their mind is really like, they don't like what they see. So in other words, idle talk, we have no peace of mind at all because we're constantly, because now, awkward. Well, you know, keep the ball going. You've got to juggle, you know. In the olden days, in Victoria and England, you know, the ladies, the rich families, they were taught how to keep the ball going. Conversation, how to, if there's a flower, oh, you must know about all sorts of flowers, what they're good for, you know. You must know how to strike up a conversation about any subject, you know. That's what young rich ladies were taught to do, you know, to whatever it is, you know, geology. Oh yes, we went on a nature hunting, you know, blah blah blah, with lady from Gloucestershire, and you know, the Duke of Devon, and whatever it is, etc., etc. Constantly, we must have some conversation. In Buddhism, it's the other way around. The less you talk is a sign of deeper understanding. But of course, we can't do that if we interacting in the real world. We must participate. Otherwise, we won't be accepted in the group. Peer group pressure. Coveting things. So, seeing what other people have and desiring those things. So, how many times have you sort of like, you've gone downtown or somewhere like that, or maybe Milan, you've gone shopping, you know, at that, what's that what's that big shopping mall they have out there, King Francis or whatever it is in Milan there, they got that big, it's a megalithic Strand arcade there that they have in Milan. It's all full of, you know how the wonderful Italian leather goods and all this kind of stuff, jewellery, etc., the wonderful cafes and all that stuff. And you walk by, you know, and you see something, no, I'm not going to buy it. But you go off, but the thought stays with you, the image stays with you, you know. What a watch, that's wonderful. You go to bed, it's still there. You wake up in the morning, wow, it's still there. You're coveting that watch. The desire for that watch is so extraordinary that you actually, in your dream, you're wearing that watch. You're visualizing in your dream, you walk to the shop, and the shop owner says, I like your face, I'm giving you 50% off. Wow! And then you wake up and it's all a dream. Then you have to pay 50,000 euros for it, you realise. But that's okay, I've got it. It's mine. And then when you buy it, the bubble bursts. And then you realise, when you look at the American Express card, it's 50 grand. It's like, wow, yeah. Okay, all right. And then, but the thing is, that's one thing. Tomorrow it's going to be another thing. Maybe it's going to be a sandwich. Maybe it's going to be some other clothing. Maybe whatever it is. Once we have the cause for one thing to affect us so much, to covet it so much, that desire to possess that. It doesn't have to be somebody else's, because that's stealing, you know. But to see it in a shop or something, and then that desire is so strong that we can't get rid of it, you know. Then what we a little bit know about karma, it accumulates, it compounds, yeah? And that karmic action will have to ripen. So, because we can't get rid of that desire in the morning, in order to get rid of the desire because it's so strong, we have to buy it, don't we? Once you buy it, the desire goes away. Oh, but now you're stuck with something that you didn't want, pretty much. And that is a very subtle, and if I may say, a profound psychological aspect to our, it's a very, very deep attribute of our psychology, what I've just described. You'd have to probably do 5 or 6 years of psychology before you can actually get to that point. But here we are our own patients, and we are our own laboratory here, you know. And that's, the key is, you have the anger, you have the desire, you have the ignorance even. Not so much obvious, but the others, the delusions are the most important ones for us at this point, you know. We stay within those delusions, within that anger. How many times have you been in an argument with somebody, especially a domestic argument, because they're the most hottest arguments you'll ever get into. And when I say hot, I don't mean sexually hot. I mean angry hot. Yeah? And because you know that person, they know you. You know what buttons to push, and they know what buttons they need to push. So they're extremely hot arguments, yeah? And you're in the middle of that argument, right? But in the back of your mind, you're going, I'm in an argument. It's like a second voice. I'm in this argument. I can't stop what I'm doing. It's like you're watching yourself outside, you know. And it's like you're tumbling down a hill and you go, I know now what's going to happen. I know what I'm going to say. I know what she or he are going to say. I know how this is going to end. But I just can't stop myself. Karma. It has to ripen. It has to ripen. Because you started it, or the other person started, you've retaliated, or the other person's retaliated. You're in it. It's too late. The hurricane has begun. It can only now stop. Once it's stopped, then you go, the karma's finished. Just like with the watch. Once you satiate, or supposedly satiate your desire, it's finished, I'm okay now. And on a sinister note, this is the way serial killers behave as well. Huge propensity, huge overwhelming desire to murder. They can't control it. They have no idea why they're thinking like this. As soon as they murder, it's done. And you will hear many, many serial killers, when they're caught or just about to be caught, they actually confess, I'm so glad you got me because I don't know how to stop this. I don't know. I'm glad you got me. I can't control myself. So much for free will. Of course, that's a gross example. Serial killing is a gross example. But we possess the same potential, not to be serial killers, but the sense of desire is there, causes and conditions. Of course, somebody who's a serial killer is obviously somebody who's been born in a hell state and is now born in a human rebirth. And the propensity to murder, the desire to murder, to find pleasure in murder, is overwhelming and is still within their consciousness. That's their freedom, if you like. An incredibly distorted perception of freedom, but that is the way they express it. Okay? Malice. A town called Malice. So, motivation can take such forms as wanting to kill, beat, or otherwise inflict harm on a sentient being. Being malicious. I'm really glad they got sacked. I'm so glad they got fired. Malicious. Thinking about it. Maliciously punching somebody. Yeah, but it was a joke. Was it a joke? What was your motivation? Well, I just wanted to, let off a little bit of steam. That's you. So you check up. What's your motivation for saying that? What's your motivation for doing such a thing? Yeah? Somebody's being, for example, children or something like that, and somebody's been naughty, one of your kids or somebody else's child or your nephew or something like that, and they've been a bit of a pain in the neck and they trip and they fall and they start crying and you start smiling. Good. Whoa. Where does that come from? Check your motivation. Check your motivation, Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, you kind of, by this, you're kind of thinking that, I need to be a saint already. It's not going to happen overnight. You can't get rid of all these delusions just like that. But being aware of them is the beginning of the process of getting rid of them. That's the most important thing. It's going to take years, and for some people, lifetimes to begin to understand this and to really get a handle on that. So the more we study, the more we understand, the more we can contemplate about it, meditate it, and then put it into practice. That's how it works. And not just think, I understand the definition of malicious or killing, whatever. I haven't done any of that. Then why are you in samsara if you haven't done any of that? Don't think because you haven't done any of these things that you haven't done this before in a previous lifetime. Because being born in samsara is a clear indication that we've done something wrong somewhere, somehow. Because if we hadn't, we wouldn't be born in samsara. In other words, we have karmic seeds within our consciousness that have yet to ripen. We don't know what, but it's not going to be pleasant. So that's what we should be thinking. We should be afraid of our delusions, our karma, not somebody else's, as I said previously with Aryashanti. Malice, wrong view. Wrong view, the most subtlest of all, is saying things like, karma doesn't exist. It's not necessary. Rebirth, past, previous lives, that's just nonsense. There's no evidence for that. It doesn't. I totally deny that. Emptiness, the law of the true nature of reality. That's just a philosophical game that people play. That doesn't really exist. So when you start denying the true spiritual teachings, in this case Buddhism, then the karmic consequences of that are, by denying yourself Dharma, then you'll have nothing to free yourself from suffering. You will not be able to, you won't be able to distinguish between what's right and what's wrong. So therefore, because you lack that, you will always be doing what's wrong. You will be always accumulating non-virtue. You will always be hurting someone and therefore hurting yourself. And thereby, you will be born in a lower state of existence. But some people naively think, well, that's not bad. I mean, look, if I was born as a dog or another lower state of existence, look, I'm born there, right? That karma gets purified, whoosh, I'll come back, I'll be born as a human being again. Whoa! That's totally wrong. What you don't understand is, for example, you apply for a job and you don't get the job that you want, so you have to settle for second or third or 10th best, reluctantly, because you need the money, you have to do this job. Okay, so it's an office job. So you go there and you realize this is just not where I belong. The people are wrong, just your wrong personality type, people are just all sorts of whatever it is, but you need the job. But in your mind you say to yourself, well, look, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to fit in. I'm not going to interact. I'm not going to socialize. I'm just going to do the job and go home. That's it, right? But as time goes by, you realize slowly you do interact. You make friends, some people you don't get along with, and next thing you know, you're totally assimilated into that workforce after 5, 6, 10, 20, whatever years. Yeah? So it's the same thing with being, you think that you're, by being born in a lower state of existence, you're purifying your actions and you come back. No. Being born as an animal, you now, a dog or whatever it may be, now you are being taught by other dogs how to interact as a dog and live in that society. The more you do that, the more you compound the karma of being a dog. So you're going to be a dog for many, many, many lifetimes. In addition to the karma that's brought you rebirth as a dog, right? Once that is over, now, but you still, because of your habitual tendency as a dog, that compounds it even worse. Yeah? So there's a potential, because as a dog you may kill things, you may actually now go to a lower rebirth because you've killed birds or whatever it is. So you will actually wind up in the hell realms. So it gets lower and lower and lower. So it's the same thing when you're working in a job. You may have a certain standard, but next thing you know, you're interacting with the politics, you're swearing at people, you're calling this person that, you're calling, whoa. And then you think, oh, I'm going to go and get the job that you always wanted, your first choice eventually. And then you realize you're not qualified for that job anymore. Because you've assimilated so much in this other job, psychologically and socially, whatever it is. That's really where you belong. That's your karma. Cause and effect. So wrong view is by denying pretty much all the core aspects of the Buddha's teachings. Once you do that, you have no key to free yourself from samsara. That's it. You're basically throwing the key in the river and that's it, you're finished. So when you come across people that say, well, what proof do you have for, they challenge you, what proof do you have for rebirth and all that kind of stuff. Well, you know, I can't explain to you something that's taken me more than 20 years to assimilate. And I can't explain 20 years in 30 seconds, especially to somebody who's being malicious, in the sense they want to talk to me about Buddhism only to disprove the Buddha's teaching. You're being malicious. Even if I tell you the truth and I show you, because of your negative motivation, you still won't get it. Your karma is so negative, you're so angry and malicious, you won't recognize it. I can put it on a platter for you and you still say, no, that's not good enough. Well, I don't need to please you. You need to please yourself. I'm fine. You know, my 20 years or more, it's proven otherwise. That's the most important thing. Not what you think, it's what I think. What you think is important to you, not to me. Karma. My karma is my karma. Yours is yours. So from that, we can know how to navigate between relationships, work relationships, social relationships, etc., etc. So, just a few other major points. For us, the most important things are interacting with the Sangha and interacting with lay people. That's it. That's the division. Karma that is heavy because of its essential nature, in this case means killing. Killing means if it's something really, really heavy, like because it brings suffering. For example, killing a whale is incredibly more negative than killing an ant, simply by the nature of how big the whale is. So when you see on TV, when you see those people harpooning a whale, and then it takes a long time for that whale to die, every single person, whether they're sitting, they pull the trigger on the harpoon, or whether you're the person that owns the ship, actually the person that pulls the trigger that kills the harpoon, as heavy as that is, accrues less karma than the actual person who owns all the whaling ships. Because the person who owns the whole fleet of whaling ships, that they have given, it's basically a general who has sent out an army to kill. And that person now accumulates the negative karma of all the whales that have ever been killed by his shipping company. But the person who pulls the trigger on the harpoon gun only accumulates the negative karma of those individual whales that they've killed. Not everything collectively. The shipping owner owns everything and is responsible for all that action because they own those ships, they make money out of that, and there's no way in the world they want to go out of business because that is their livelihood. So it's an incredibly negative circle that they've put themselves into. Okay? So here it's the nature, that karma is heavy because of its essential nature in terms of killing, but in this case also the field, the object that they're killing is a whale. It's an incredibly large object, it takes a long time for it to die. The longer it takes to die, the more it suffers. The more it suffers, it's pretty much like you're torturing somebody before you kill them. And that's an incredibly negative action. You know? So if they kill somebody by shooting them in the head and it's instantaneous, negative, yes, but it's still not as heavy as if you tortured somebody and then killed. So karma that is heavy because of its mental component. So if you have an incredibly intense desire to possess something, the karma becomes more heavy because of that. Hurting somebody, possessing something, any of those 10 negative virtues. By the way, the opposite of the 10 negative virtues, killing, maliciousness, and all the others, the 10 virtues is basically just the opposite. So the virtue of the opposite of killing is not killing, so not lying. Yeah, the opposite of wrong view is having wisdom. It's just the opposite of the 10 virtues. No need to go into any detail about that. Karma that is heavy because of its preliminary action, which I've just explained here in terms of making somebody suffer, torturing them before you murder them. You know, on a subtle basis, you could even say, you know, teasing somebody. You know, you're this, you're that, nah, you're this, blah, blah, blah. Getting other people to tease them, etc. Making that person a scapegoat, etc., etc. I mean, that's a mental torture, if you think about it. Especially if you're a little kid, because it means all the thing in the world to you, you know. That in a way, you know, that's pretty, that can accumulate, especially if you're doing it on a regular basis. People who like to walk up behind people and go, surprise! Once is okay, but if you're doing it all the time, I mean, you know, that's not a good thing to do. That's not a good thing to do. Karma that is heavy because of its basis. Okay, this is the one that I wanted to talk about in terms of Sangha and lay practitioners. The basis. So, whatever we do towards, because the Sangha, the Buddha, Dharma and the Sangha, the monks and nuns, which represent the true Arya Sangha. Technically speaking, conventional monks and nuns are not Sangha. The true Sangha are those monks and nuns who have a direct perception of emptiness. They are a true object of refuge because they themselves are free from suffering. Their picture is worthy put on the shrine. Yeah? Monks and nuns just represent the ultimate Sangha, okay? And we should, when we see them, we should always remember the true Sangha. Even though you see them doing something wrong, oh, smoking, hello, you know, or holding hands with a girl, hello, you know, you kind of, you know, just, you know, that's not the true Sangha. We have to think. So we give them the benefit of a doubt. And in our minds, it's just like when we see a picture of the Buddha, it's not the real Buddha, but we think in our mind of the real qualities of the real Buddha. So it's the same thing here. So if we do, because the basis, the field that they represent, an enlightened field, pure field, anything that's done disrespectfully in front of an image of the Buddha, or the Dharma or the Sangha, stepping over scriptures, throwing scriptures down, or in a violent way, you accumulate an incredible amount of negative karma. So negative karma because of the basis, the field. Yeah? So anything that we do against the Sangha is incredibly heavy, especially when it's done through hatred, through maliciousness. Yeah? If we don't know something is disrespectful, like if we put down some scriptures on the ground and we don't know that's wrong, well, that's ignorance. We don't know. But if we do it deliberately out of anger, oh, I really don't understand this, and we throw it on the ground. I really don't understand what compassion's all about. I'm sick of it. I'm walking out of here, you know. Well, you pretty much have to go on a Vajrasattva retreat for about a year to purify that, you know, action. So if you don't know, well, you don't know. But if you're deliberately doing something, like for example, the heaviest action you can do is to be disrespectful to your teacher. I'll give you an example of real life examples. Somebody calling their teacher friend. Hello friend, how are you? Seems kind of condescending, or maybe if the person is a little bit simple of mind, it seems okay. But because the basis is your teacher, and the teacher, whether they are ordained or lay practitioner, I mean, ordained obviously they have higher vows, you know, but as a lay practitioner, well, they've obviously got refuge vows and bodhisattva vows and tantric vows. And also they represent pretty much what the ordained Lama represents as well, which is, in Tibetan Buddhism, the teacher, lay or ordained, is pretty much the Buddha's representative on earth, you know, and their responsibility to teach the Dharma. Any kind of condescension or maliciousness or anything untoward towards them, it's the quickest way to accumulate negative karma. You know, so there's an old Tibetan saying that the best Lama is the Lama that lives 2 valleys away. Meaning Meaning that it's nice to be in contact with your teacher, but you don't want to hang around him or her too often, because whatever you do, you turn your back to them, you look at them the wrong way, or you're gone. You're gone. But the thing is, that's the blessings of the teacher in the Tibetan tradition. The quickest way to purify your negative act is to hang around your teacher 24 hours a day. Do this for me, do that, do this, clean the toilet, do this, etc., etc. You're purifying karma that there's no digit that can express the amount of merit that you accumulate in the service of your teacher. On the other hand, there is no amount of digits that can express the negative karma that you when you get angry at your teacher or you think negatively of them. Another true-to-life example is a Lama was teaching his student the stupa, what the stupa represents, what to do the visualizations, the offerings, and then after he said that, okay, let's circumambulate around the stupa. And then the pupil walked in front of the Lama as they went around the stupa. But the Lama was patient and kind, said, well, it's better this than nothing, because I don't want to get angry or this person to get angry in front of a stupa. Because the stupa represents the Buddha's mind, the enlightened mind, right? And so anything you do, you get angry in front of the stupa or anything like that, the negative karma that you accumulate multiplies trillions of times over. So you just chill out. You just stay as cruel as you can be. Okay? So the Lama let the student walk in front of him, which is incredibly disrespectful and wrong. Now, because he had done that in front to his Lama, and because it was at a stupa, the negative karma he accumulated was just beyond comprehension. And it was only a couple of days later or something that this person did not have the karma to be the student of this Lama anymore. And their karma ran out. They just found some excuse. I think they left physically. They went somewhere. They found a new house or something like that. Also in the Tibetan tradition, when you visit your Lama or at a shrine or something like that, you don't prostrate at the end when you visit your teacher, because that means you're saying goodbye. It's inauspicious. You prostrate when you meet them, but you don't prostrate at the end when you're leaving. And I've seen many examples. A lot of people say, well, in my tradition we do that. Well, okay, fine. You do what is applicable to your tradition, but in the Tibetan tradition, no. And I've seen valid examples of that, where people have done that, and then later on they didn't have the karma to be with that Lama anymore or receive teachings. There was always some kind of karmic obstacle. And I thought, oh well, it's only just, it's just a prostrate. But because the field, the object, the Lama, ordained or non-ordained, because they represent the enlightened mind, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in one. Anything disrespectful, consciously or unconsciously, you accumulate vast amount of negative karma, and the impediments are almost instantaneous. I've met people on more than one occasion who have actually had arguments with their Lama. These people are basically considered radioactive. As some of you may have read in the papers recently that there are radioactive boars, wild pigs in Finland from Chernobyl. And the Finnish government is warning hunters, don't go near them. Well, that's exactly what you do with somebody who's had an argument with their Lama, a really full-on heated argument. They are basically considered radioactive. You go nowhere. They have accumulated so much negative virtue that you can feel it. Now, having said all that, are we doomed forever to be experiencing those things? The Buddha says no, because everything is impermanent. If you've done something, we can undo it. We can purify that action. Have you killed somebody? Yes. You regret it? Yes. You want to do it again? No. How do I stop this? Practice the Dharma. It's possible. Milarepa killed 38 people. He's a historical figure. And he achieved enlightenment in one lifetime. He was fortunate, in a certain way, he was fortunate that he knew what he did was wrong. And through seeing what he did wrong, that's it. Forget about marriage, kids, whatever. I need to find my teacher so I can actually not have to experience the karma of murdering 38 people. Where can I find my teacher? And he went through all sorts of trials and tribulations in order to receive teachings from Mapa Lotsawa. And then he renounced everything and went without any clothes, no food, only what his karma dictated. He went off into the mountains and froze pretty much in order to meditate. Yeah. And Milarepa's last teaching, the final teaching to his heart son, Gompompa, after he taught him everything he had realized, if any of you may remember, Jitsun Milarepa, he wore that white tunic, and underneath he had no clothes or underpants or anything like that, and he lifted up and he showed his bum to Gompompa, and he said, "This is my final teaching." And of course his bum was all gnarled and scarred because he had no cushion. He would sit on bare, cold rock up in the Tibetan mountains. You know, that's how powerful his renunciation was, because he knew there was no alternative. I'm a mass murderer. There's only one way I'm going. I need to get out of here. You know, and he did it. He did it. You know, it's a true to life historical figure, and there have been many, many other examples. People who have achieved enlightenment in the obviously I'm talking about in the Mahayana tradition. In this case, I can only give examples in that case. You know. And that's all boils down to karma, what they choose to adopt and what they choose to abandon. For us, it's the same thing. We now have to stock up and say, look at my life, look what I've got, where am I going? And then you decide what you want and what you don't want. So everything that we've done, there's no need to punish yourselves, torture yourselves. It can be undone, but you need to be patient. It's going to take time. It's going to take time and dedication. And you need to, now I strongly recommend whatever books that you have after this, whilst the subject is still hot in your mind, fresh, go and study it. Just read about it. You don't need to be a scholar or anything like that. And the other thing is understanding cause and effect. Some of you may love to study philosophy, the Buddhist philosophy and stuff like that, but you don't understand it. It's just, you know, it's just reading a text that thick on Buddhist philosophy. It's just, forget it. You know, go back to Jane Austen, you know. You'll remember it more. But the thing is, if you want that, if you want to understand those incredibly important sacred texts, like for example the Prajnaparamita in 10,000 verses, you know, it comes in a, you know, text, you know, in Pesha form, it comes in like 6 volumes or something that I've seen, one version. Now, I know somebody, a true life story, I know somebody who you know, Western, like me, Western student, whatever, they didn't understand Tibetan or something like that, or anything like that. But they wanted to have the teachings on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, which is teaching on emptiness. It's the final, ultimate teaching that the Buddha gave. That is the true liberation. That is how we achieve liberation from samsara, by understanding the true nature of reality. And this is the perfection of wisdom, is those teachings and telling us how we can do that. This person didn't speak Tibetan, couldn't read, let alone read it. But they understood through the blessings of their Lama the law of cause and effect. So what this person did was, they were in Kathmandu at the time, and they went down to at Bodhnath, at the shop. There's a shop, I don't know what the name is, a famous shop there. And you walk in there, and there's texts and texts and texts on every single thing you want. The Bardo, Todo, the Bodhisattva's way of life, you name it. But it's all in Tibetan. You got the karma to be there, but you don't have the karma to read the books, you know? So anyway, so this person, he bought, there's like a couple of volumes. I think he bought it was a 25,000 word one. And so it was a one single volume, it was Pesha. Like that. He bought it, and understanding the law of cause and effect, all he did was he took refuge, generated bodhicitta, generated motivation by reciting the perfection of wisdom mantra. Om Tathagate Gate, Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamagate Bodhisoha. That, within that mantra, is the teaching on emptiness. If you want to get it any more succinct than that, it's which is the speech of the Buddha. Om, Hum, Yeah? From that perfection of wisdom mantra, from that mantra you get the Heart Sutra, from the Heart Sutra you get the 8,000 word perfection of wisdom, you get the 25,000, you get the 100,000 and everything in between. So it goes big and it goes small. In essence, they are one and the same. Yeah? So all this person did, took refuge, generated bodhicitta, generated the motivation by just chanting the perfection wisdom mantra and leafing through this. May I create the cause to actually receive an English text of this, and may I receive the teachings on this, and just and just leafing through it, and then do it again. Eventually, this person did find an English text, and they did find the teachings to this. They created the cause for it. Their understanding of emptiness totally improved from that motivation. You have to create the seed for it. It won't happen otherwise. If, for example, if you say, oh yeah, I want to receive teaching on emptiness, and then you realize some Lama somewhere is going to give them, you go there, you won't have the karma to understand what they're saying. It'll just be over your head. You don't have the karma to understand. You've got the karma to be there, but not to understand it. To understand it, you need to do more preparatory work for that. Cause and effect. So, if you want to be free of people picking on you or bullying you, for example, you have to stop slandering people. If you're having nightmares where people are chasing you, or night terrors or something like that, that is a clear indication that you're slandering or spreading malicious gossip. Are or have definitely been in previous lifetimes. Because now that is the accumulating karma that you're experiencing. If you've slandered, told people off, whatever it is, the karma of that is now people are going to be verbally abusing you. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or an enlightened Buddha to kind of figure it out, really, through using scriptural citations to understand what the karmic causes are of people thinking badly about you or whatever it may be. So if you want people to like you, if you want to get along in life, then we need to develop compassion. We need to purify our negative karma, accumulate virtue, and generate bodhicitta. Bodhicitta doesn't happen without renunciation. Renunciation doesn't happen unless we have a strong understanding of karma. Cause and effect. So, again, I've met many people who have been in the Dharma 20 years or longer than I have. And still nothing happens. Still they haven't read any textbook because I don't like reading. I just don't like reading, it's too hard, whatever it is. But I say, if you have a volume like this text or whatever text you choose, if you just read as a personal commitment every day, one page every day, right? It would take you this page, 400, so it would take you 300, so it would take you, like, let's say a year to read one page a day, right? In 20 years, how many times would you be able to read that text? Just reading it. You don't have to absorb anything in there. Just take refuge, generate bodhicitta, and say, by reading this, may I understand it eventually, sometime in this lifetime. Forget about future life. Now. We want it now. And just by reading it, and you stop, even if it's in mid-sentence, you stop, and then tomorrow you continue on. Just by doing that for 20 years, something would have seeped in, if you have the motivation for it to seep in, even though you hate reading or whatever it is. Just doing that, creating habitual practice, tendency. And you'll see that all of a sudden, hang on, when you hear a Lama talking, yeah, I kind of remember that. Certain things, you'll get flashback. It's guaranteed. Rather than spending 20 years going from Dharma Center to Dharma Center, you know, and giving food and offering, yeah, that is important, don't get me wrong. But you know, offering food to the Lama, yes. 2 seconds later you get angry at somebody, finished. You've just destroyed whatever karma you've created with the Lama. So it's more important, this is more important in terms of repaying our Lama's kindness than offering any food, any money, any gold, anything. The ultimate repayment of kindness to the Lama, if you don't have a teacher, then the Buddha is your teacher. The ultimate way to repay the Buddha's kindness is to practice what they have taught. That's it. Everything else is auxiliary to that. Okay, so when we do the Chenrezig practice, which will be now, because we can go on about this for months and months and months, years and years, and lifetimes, we talk about karma. The most important thing is to realize we can purify this. You're not as bad as you think. You're not as bad as other people think you are. Not that I think anybody's bad. And through the process of the 4 opponent powers, anything and everything can be purified. But in order to do that, we must have faith in Buddha Chenrezig. So in this case, Buddha Chenrezig represents the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. For those of you in the Mahayana tradition, it also represents our Guru. So Guru, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Guru, for those who are not familiar with that, might be a little bit surprised that the Guru is above the Buddha. Well, as I said before, in Tibetan Buddhism, the Guru is the living representative of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. That's how we see it. Yeah? And so, in this case, for us, Buddha Chenrezig represents the field of merit, and we take refuge in Buddha Chenrezig. He is the one that we have the strongest karmic connection with. Yeah? Not Manjushri, not Tara, not Vajrapani, etc., all these other enlightened emanations of the Buddha, but Buddha Chenrezig, yeah? They're all the same. And their motivation is all the same. Yeah? So we take refuge in Buddha Chenrezig, you know. We think very strongly everything we've done, said and thought in body, speech and mind. You are the only one that I have this karmic connection with. Please, please help me. I strongly regret what I've done. Yeah? I take refuge in you. I believe in you. You know, I believe that you can help me. Please help me. I promise not to do these actions again to the best of my ability. To the best of my ability. Because it's not going to happen overnight. And then we do the antidote. As I said, the antidote is divided into 2. There's the general antidote and the specific antidote. The general antidote is any Dharma practice we do is an antidote to the suffering of samsara. So offering flowers, water, being assistance to our Lama and the Sangha per se, reading scriptures, mantras, etc., etc. These are all general antidotes. Specific antidotes are, you know, at the end of the day, you know you've had an argument at work with somebody and you want to purify your speech. So the specific antidote is, I promise not to be in an argument with somebody, not to call somebody names, not to swear, etc., etc. So therefore the specific antidote is doing the opposite of that. Keeping quiet, pleasant speech, reciting mantra, which is mind protection. So rather than thinking badly of somebody, when you think of badly of somebody, automatically visualize Buddha Chenrezig. And then recite the mantra to protect your mind and your voice so as not to do anything. That's all you've got to do. You see somebody you don't like, above their head, Buddha Chenrezig. That's why clearly visualizing Buddha Chenrezig plants incredible karmic seeds in our mind. So you get angry at somebody and you see them coming towards you. Oh God, here it comes, Robert again. Quickly, Chenrezig above their head. No worries. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Instead of swearing or mumbling under your breath, oh God, it's got another boring conversation. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani, idle speech, malicious speech, harsh speech. Yeah. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme. And then when the person comes, hey, how you doing? You develop a little bit of patience. Walk away, no worries. That's how we transform a negative action into a positive action. But to get to that point, you just can't do it out of blind faith and force yourself to have faith in Buddha Chenrezig. It must be based on scripture, it must be based on study and practice and experience. You must have the realization. You can't force anyone or force yourself to say, oh, all of a sudden, well, boom, you know, I have faith in Buddha Chenrezig. You have no idea what Buddha Chenrezig is. So again, you need patience and you need to have the courage and spend time on your own education, on your own spiritual journey. Nobody else is going to do that for you. That's it. And then we in the West, because we have so much choices, I know it's a little bit difficult because we have so many distractions, but everything you need to get started is really under your nose right now. You've got it all. That's it. There is no other big secret. There is no other special teaching that I need to get. If you want the special teaching, have you created the karma for that? Everyone wants to practice tantra. If you don't know what it is, well then you don't need it. Full stop. Because you don't have the karma to understand what it is. Okay, now, Chenrezig practice. So, as we recite the mantra as per usual, 4 opponent powers, very clearly, to the best of your ability, for those who are familiar with. If you can visualize a 1,000-arm Chenrezig, wonderful. If you can visualize the 4-arm Chenrezig, wonderful. If that's a little bit too difficult, that's understandable, then visualize His Holiness the Dalai Lama sitting on a lotus, yeah, because he is Buddha Chenrezig. Or if you like, His Holiness the Karmapa even, you know, he's Buddha Chenrezig as well. Smiling at you. If you can't do that, then visualize at least like a snowball, a white light with a tinge of pink, rose quartz pink to it. And visualize, imagine that is the essence of Buddha Chenrezig. As we recite the mantra, visualize from Buddha Chenrezig's heart center, or from the ball of light, from the center of the light if you like. White light and nectar coming down to our heads. Obviously Buddha Chenrezig is above us, above our head level, not too far away. A little bit of a hand and an arm and a half span in front of us. You can visualize them not too big and not too small. Not too big, not too small. Not life size, half life size if you like. Not too big, not too small. From their heart center we visualize white light and nectar coming to the crown of our head, and all that white light and nectar, like a strong waterfall, comes through our body, goes all the way, fills every single capillary, every single cell of your body. Goes all the way down to the soles of our feet, and then just like a container, that liquid nectar and white light comes back up and comes back to the crown of our head like overflowing container, and it overflows through our head, and all that white light and nectar brings out all the impurities that we've done in body, speech and mind in black liquid, tarry liquid. And that tarry liquid not only comes back out, but comes out of the crown of our head, but it comes out through our tear ducts, through our ears, through our mouth like you're vomiting, through under our fingernails, through under our toenails, through all the pores of our skin, through the lower parts of our body as we have just like we have diarrhea. All that black tar and liquid is everything that we've done. And feel very, very strongly that this is coming out of your system as we recite the 4 opponent powers. Minimum is to visualize Buddha Chenrezig and just strongly regret what you have done. Okay, so first we'll recite it 21 times out loud together. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, as we do this. Then after that we'll recite it privately, not too loud to disturb people beside you. Then after that we will recite it out loud 21 times again. And then at the end when I say Om Mani Padme Hum, you visualize that finally, like a strong waterfall, like Niagara Falls, Hum, that final burst, washes everything out of you. And it's at that point that we meditate and we feel very, very strongly that every single thing we have done, feel very, very strongly that you are like a crystal vase that's clean on the inside and on the outside. And that you've received the blessings of Buddha Chenrezig. And that now that you are clean. So you have, how do you say, you voluntarily absorb those blessings. Yeah? Okay? So just follow me in that respect, please. mane peme ho. Now, before we do anything else, say anything, think anything, do anything, dedicate merit. So we dedicate all merit to all other sentient beings. May they all quickly come in contact with the true sacred Buddha Dharma, develop unshakable faith in the triple gem, follow in the footsteps of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times 10 directions, and achieve enlightenment. May all of samsara and the cause of the samsara quickly be exhausted. Okay, any questions? Whilst people are thinking if they have any questions, I have some Chenrezig cards here for those that have missed out. I have 4-arm Chenrezig cards. If anybody would like 1 or 2 or whatever to take away with them, they have, on the back of them I've stamped in Tibetan or Manipuri 4 times. If anybody wants one, please come up. Any questions? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Specifically, so
Yep.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah. As many as you want. Yeah.
One of them was when you were talking about throwing a stone at somebody and someone else gets injured himself instead. But I mean, I always thought it was mostly the intention. So if you have that intention to throw a stone at someone, yes, it's someone you hated and you ended up injuring someone you didn't feel the same sort of negativity towards, but nonetheless you had that intention of harming someone, you know, and like that. So is it really such a big difference?
Well, tonight when you drive out, you'll be driving and you'll be killing many insects because they're attracted to the lights, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Your intention is to go home. Your intention is not to hurt anyone or anything, right? But you're still accruing negative karma, right? It's still indirect, right? It's not your volition. You're right. Volition is the main thing. It is the most important thing. But you still, if you do that, you know, as long as you drive for many years, that's a lot of insects, really. Okay, so that does, you will be accruing some kind of it's minor compared to volitionally. Like, all right, tonight I'm going out and I'm going to kill as many insects as I can. I mean, that's nuts. But the motivation is the thing that will determine the heavy karma. So you will be killing insects, but it won't be as heavy as intentionally doing it, right? So by hitting somebody else accidentally, I do accrue a negative act, but it's not that heavy, right? Now, if I do that on a regular basis, though, I keep hitting the, you know, I've got my eyesight's wrong or something. I keep hitting the wrong, but if the habitual tendency and consistency, in the end, I'm going to accrue enough karma as the same as hating somebody. So, for example, I gave you a while back vendetta, you know, vendetta. If you watch, you know, I mentioned the Godfather, you know, and no disrespect to anybody Italian in the audience, you know, or anything like that, but that's our culture at the moment is based on Hollywood, you know. So, so if you have a vendetta against somebody and you really hate that person and you think that way for years and years and years, the scriptures say, in the end, you accumulate the karma of killing somebody. You see what I'm saying? So, yes, I throw it, oh, sorry, didn't mean it. And automatically you apologise, you okay, you know, etc., etc., you know. It reduces that act, and it's not as strong as really hating somebody, your volition. But the thing is, if you do it consistently, if you're accident prone and you keep hitting people, eventually, without purifying that act, you will accrue the karma of really hurting somebody, volition. Yeah, sorry. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I think I looked at it the wrong way, because you sort of, it sounds like you're doing the teaching of what happens if you hit someone without intention. I guess my concern was, in the example that you gave, you had an intention of harming someone, you did have a negative intention, it just happened to be that the rock hit someone else, but you still had that negative intention. So I thought surely that counts, like you're driving, you go out intending to kill a kangaroo and you hit a wombat instead, isn't it just as bad? So you really wanted to kill the kangaroo?
Well, it's bad, but it's not as heavy as intentionally killing.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the most important. Motivation is the most important thing, as in law, you know, in jurisprudence. I mean, that's straight out of law school.
Well, that example that you gave, I also had a similar thought as Nalushi, and then I think the difference is probably...
As what, sir?
As Nalushi, sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes,
the
yes.
lady's name. So I had the same idea, but I think you then went on to clarify it a bit, and just correct me if I'm wrong with this understanding, but as I understand it, then the intention itself, the first act, which is the mental action itself, is probably same in terms of the karma, because the intention is still there to hurt someone. However, what follows through, if you do throw the stone and it hits someone else, what follows through is the remorse, is the, oh my gosh, that's an accident.
Because it's a different person.
Correct. So in that way, the karma then is different, but the initial act is the same. And I think that probably...
You still have the motivation to hurt X, and you really hate X.
Yeah.
But you hurt Y, but you don't want to hurt Y. But you still have the anger for X. It hasn't diminished your hatred of person X. You know what I'm saying? But you have remorse for Y because you didn't want to do anything bad to them.
Yeah. But the starting point in terms of the karma is the same. So that kind of responds to your question. But what follows from that is different, because the action is different and the outcome is different.
Yeah. Sorry, part two.
Part two, thank you. So I had this question. I remember, I think the first talk today last week I've heard monastics say actually that not everything is karma. Like there are other things that play, like just natural phenomena or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording, but I understood it to be something like, okay, there's natural disasters and all of that. You can't always say that's just karma. There's just the... Yeah, so
well,
do you believe that everything is karma?
Well, you know, the environmental cause of killing somebody, the environmental cause is to be reborn in a place that is violent, that is, crops don't grow very well, people are starving. It's almost like a hungry ghost realm, basically. You know, there's constant conflict, you know, which we can name quite a few places like that in the world today. That's the environmental cause. So the environment reflects the karma of the people and the animals, the sentient beings that live there. So the environment is a karmic result of those people, because you can't kill a busload of people and then think you're going to be reborn in paradise, although some people do think that. But from a Buddhist point of view, that's impossibility. That's not possible. It's just no way. You have to now be reborn. When you do take rebirth back on earth, whenever that may be, you will be reborn in a place full of conflict. Your lifespan will be short, because you've taken other people's lives, so therefore your life will be short as well. Through disease, through mishap, through murder, or whatever it may be. The food will not be nutritious. The food will not be conducive for life. The medicine will be very diluted. It will not be conducive for saving life. Everything in that place will be conducive for shortening life. and inducing misery. That's the karmic result, environmental result of having murdered in a previous lifetime. Yeah? For example, that's it. And so when we talk about the Big Bang, the origin of the universe, what's the cause of the Big Bang? Well, the cause of the Big Bang was a previous Big Bang. And even astrophysicists are now saying that. You know? And what's the origin of the universe? The origin of the universe is the collective karma of all sentient beings in the universe. How big is the universe? Well, the Buddha says there are limitless sentient beings on limitless worlds. Limitless worlds in this universe, in our universe. Now, astrophysicists are saying there is more than one universe. Now, I'm not sure what Buddhist cosmology has to say about that, but the Buddha would say, well, yeah. I'm sure he would say yes. Basically, it's infinite. So when the Buddha, on that subject, when the Buddha was asked by someone, can you see the beginning of when I took rebirth? And the Buddha said, the Buddha who's omniscient as space, as long as vast as space is, that's as vast as the Buddha's mind is. And the Buddha who's omniscient said, I can't see the beginning of when you actually took rebirth. I can't see the beginning of anybody's rebirth. In other words, it's infinite. So for us to think that somehow we're just going to, as I said, gave the example before, I'm somehow going to, oh, it's okay, I'll be reborn as a dog and the karma will get purified and it will work itself out. It doesn't work itself out until you decide to work it out. There's no end to this until you decide this is where it ends. This is it. Right now, here now, this is it. It's like the Buddha, you know, when he took rebirth, this is my final rebirth. You know. Yes.
So I was on the understanding that basically, we reincarnated and we come back again. So, and I'm still grasping and gathering info in relation to Buddhism. So there is a final chapter to your rebirth,
which is enlightenment. Yeah, which is stopping the cycle of existence.
Right.
Suffering. Permanent.
And someone would wish to aim for that once they've reached the ultimate sort of harmony and...
You'll only reach for that when you see that it is possible, it is doable. First of all,
right.
They'll tell you, the Buddha will say, well, look, you can't get rid of it. You can't get out of it. This is how you do it. Right? And then through that, because it's only the Buddha's experience, we can't perceive the Buddha's enlightened mind because we're not enlightened. So then the Buddha has to dumb it down for us, so to speak. And then he says, well, look, do this, try that. And through experimentation ourselves, then you can see, oh, the Buddha's telling the truth. So, as I said before, last time, you know, if somebody bakes a cake, you know, and it's made by the same person with the same ingredients at the same time, you know, half of the cake is not made another time and the half is not made another time. The whole thing is made at one time by the one person. So you know that when you take a slice or just taste a little bit from this side of the cake, you know that the other side of the cake is going to taste the same. So it's the same thing here. We infer from the Buddha's teaching, when the Buddha says, don't get angry, right? We experiment, and through our own experience, we see he's right, because the consequences are so bad. If he's right about that, we can infer that he's going to be right about the next thing. And then from that, we experience that, oh, he's right, and so on and so on. That's the turning of the wheel. Passing it on, you know? Yeah. Passing on it's like that Mercedes-Benz logo you have there, you know? The three jewels, you know? It's the turning of the wheel, you know? Really, actually, the turning of the wheel is passing the teachings from you to you to you to you to you. But in this case, we can infer the turning of the wheel as I'm absorbing, you know, I'm learning one thing, I'm learning another, I'm learning another, I'm learning another, and slowly, slowly, slowly. So it's through logic and reason. It's not through blind faith, you know. And so faith in the teacher, faith in the guru, etc., all that is based on logic and reason. You know, we don't, as I mentioned before, if we put ourselves in the hands of the wrong person, it's going to be a big problem. You know? So the ultimate things which are beyond our comprehension can be understood slowly by understanding the foundations and the basics. And of course, we in the West, because we have access to everything, we usually start at the top and work our way down. And then of course, you could do that for 20 or 30 years and you still get nowhere. It's like, in Tibet, where they say it's like churning water and thinking you're going to have butter. You can churn that for eons. There's no butter. Cause and effect, you must, if you want potatoes, you have to plant for potatoes. Doesn't it say that in the New Testament even, As you sow, so shall you reap.
Thank you for answering the question in so much detail.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Now's the time. No such thing as a stupid question. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the two-part series on karma. And we look forward to seeing Robert next time. Who knows what the topic will be, whatever the conditions are.
Okay.
Whatever arises.
Anytime.
Thank you. And we look forward to everyone also returning next Tuesday. We're going to start a whole different course. It's called The Wise Words of the Buddha. And it's for 6 weeks. And Nalushi, can I get back? And myself will be conducting a 6-week course, and it's called The Wise Words of the Buddha because we want to go through the Pali Canon and actually pick out certain suttas to share with you all. And in line with what Robert was talking about, this is not an intellectual exercise. It's not just about reading it for academic purposes, but really going back to the early scriptures to see what way we can bring the Buddha's teachings into our daily life. So I hope you can all attend for that. That's for 6 weeks, starting next Tuesday, 6:30 to 7:30. Usual things that we have on Thursday, we have Qigong classes, 6:30 to 7:30, and yoga on Friday, 6:30 to 7:30. If you're interested to join our mailing list, we have a red book and you can just put your name there. If you're interested to learn more about Buddhism or just to read a page a day, as Robert was saying, we have a whole heap of books over there, and there's more coming as well on various topics and throughout all the traditions of Buddhism. So we're very open in that way with non-sectarian. So you can have a look at the books on that bookshelf, and they're free, so feel free to grab whatever you like for yourself and others. If you'd like to create some good karma, we do have a donation box. So if you would like to support the centre and sow your seeds of generosity, we'd love to receive that. Everything, literally everything here is run purely on donations. The staff don't get any money for it, there's no admin fees, it really all goes back to the centre. So thank you all again, and I look forward to seeing you next time at the Metta Centre. Thank you. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.